Burbank Talks presents another edition of Ask the Mayor, a monthly forum giving the Mayor of Burbank an opportunity to answer questions from you, the listener, and address issues important to the city of Burbank. Now, let's join our hosts as they welcome the Mayor of Burbank.
Hello, Burbank. Craig Short here with you once again for another edition of Ask the Assemblyman. Wait a second. I mean, Ask the Mayor. And once again, we have Nick Schultz with us, who has just been elected to the California Assembly. Nick, good to have you with us.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Happy to be here.
And of course, what would a show be without Ross Benson?
You know, I haven't been in the studio in so long. What camera? Oh, there it is. That's my camera. Tally ho, let's go. We got a show to go, or something like that.
You still got it. You still got
it, Ross.
So, lots happened since our last show. Number one being we've had the election.
Well, I would argue number one is the Dodgers just won the World Series. But number two, we had a big election. That's right.
Absolutely.
Was that amazing?
The Dodgers?
Yes.
Oh, my God. That's incredible.
The parade, how many people could you get in one location that was wearing blue? You know, I mean, it was just crazy.
Well, because we didn't get one in 2020, so it was good to have that one.
The first of many, I hope.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about the recent campaign. So how did it go? I'm sure you're happy with the result, of course, but any reflections back on the process?
Come on now tell the I want to hear the truth here.
Sure.
How many tennis shoes did you go through? How many doors did you knock on? And how many babies did you kiss?
Well, I only kissed my two babies.
Okay.
We're still actually compiling all the data, but as best we can tell, we probably knocked on over 50,000 doors over the course of the 2 years, and probably more than that, but I'm trying to be conservative. We made somewhere between 50 and 100,000 calls, texts on top of that. It was a lot. It was a lot of work.
I think for assembly, you had, from Burbank, you now have your new district, which covers,
it's huge.
It's
500,000 people.
You don't think about it, but you're into different neighborhoods now.
That's right.
You're so used to Burbank being your backyard, and now you're going out everywhere, knocking on doors in neighborhoods that you probably couldn't even spell the street name.
Oh, and to your question, I forgot 3 pairs of shoes. That's what it took. Because those hills in the Sunland Zahanga, they're steep, and it takes a lot to walk them.
You were a member, one of 5. Now, how many are in the assembly?
There are 80 assembly members, and so to your point,
so now you're one of 80.
It's a lot.
So your voice is not as distinct as it was.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have your work cut out. And I'm sure you were going to figure out how to make that difference, but it's probably a little more of an uphill battle than being one of 5.
I think that's very fair to say. The one thing I would say that's similar is whether you're talking about Burbank Council or you're talking about the assembly, got to be good at math. Can't do anything without at least 3 votes on the council or in the assembly. You need 41. So at the end of the day, it's all about you can have all the best ideas in the world, but you have to be able to motivate people and build a coalition, or else nothing gets done.
How much of the assembly is partisan? Is there a lot of partisanship there, or is it pretty well free thinkers?
I would say there aren't, in my view, as many critical, independent thinkers as I'd like to see. But at the same time, here's the reality. It's the same as Burbank City Council. The bulk of what they handle, 80-90%, it's bipartisan. It's the budget. It's funding for our highways or funding for our schools. There's 10% that is deeply partisan and very divided, whether that's on the council or the legislature. But we don't really talk enough about how bipartisan most of the business is. Just to give you a sense of the legislature's composition. So in the assembly, we're still waiting on the final number, but I think the Democrats lost a couple seats this year. So it's going to be still about 60 seats. So 3/4 of the assembly, to about 20 Republicans or so. And then on the Senate, it's kind of the same thing. There's only 40 members there, but it's similarly divided. So but even within the Democratic Party, there are very different kinds of Democrats. And just because there's a D in front of your name does not mean people will like your bill. Issues like housing, which we have talked about and can talk about tonight, as you both know, they are bipartisan. There are Democrats and Republicans that can hate a bill just as much as anyone else. So that's where it gets challenging.
I think you're going to have a battle in some areas, but I think also it's, we don't hear a lot about the assembly. So one of the things we want to do is invite you next year to come a couple times on.
I'll be back.
Talk about, the issues you're working on, the issues that will face Burbank to a point. Let's face it, at one time we got hit, by a couple bills that we weren't prepared for, and for whatever reason. So it'd be good to know what's kind of in the pipeline and stuff.
Well, I think you had said early on when you were running, the reason you chose to run is you wanted Burbank to have coverage.
Yeah.
When we lost Laura Friedman, our assembly member, there was nobody in the assembly fighting for Burbank. Yeah. And I think that was one of the reasons you said one of the reasons you wanted to run was support Burbank. And
with Anthony Portantino gone now too, look, it's, I know, there's so much more we'll talk about tonight as it relates to Burbank, but I will say it's going to give me tremendous pride so one little thing about the assembly is it's sort of an etiquette thing, but you never refer to Assembly Member Benson. It's always the assembly member from wherever. That's just the way they do it. So it's going to give me a little point of pride, and I'm going to tear up when I start thinking about the assembly member from Burbank. Like, that hasn't been said on that floor in a long time, except for maybe a blip when Paul Kokorian was living in Burbank, right? Like, it's been a while. So I understand in everything that I say and do and every vote that I cast, they're going to hear Burbank a lot on that floor. And I'm going to try to do my very best to represent our community.
So that means when we watch the 6 o'clock news and we see the ticker, what's that called at the bottom? The
ticker, yeah.
Ticker, it'll say from Burbank, so we might see it there.
You know what I do is when I get press releases, and, it always says, the candidate's name and not candidate, but the politician's name, and they put whatever. I always change it to Burbank if they represent Burbank. I just always change it to Burbank, so it localizes the story for us. So that's
actually something that day one of orientation they asked, how would you like to be identified? Where are you from? And I was proud to write Burbank. So it's always going to say Nick Schultz, D for Democrat - Burbank.
Well, get ready to get a lot of frequent flyer miles, but it's nice to have an airport in your own district, your own backyard.
Amen
so
to that.
Anyhow,
I had heard that from Portantino. In fact, he loved flying, Burbank Airport.
Oh yeah,
but it is convenient for you to jump on a flight, and you have a new airport, or
new terminal soon.
New terminal
might be one of the most frequent passengers in that thing.
Well, let's get on to a couple. Let's go a little bit. Go about the past here.
Sure.
Let's talk about the state of the city, which was probably the most populated one. I know they sold out and are trying to get more seats put in. It was a huge event. As always, Jonathan Jones, your PIO, and his staff, I was lucky to sit with them at their table. Very talented people, and it really helps you out with your video. The videos were absolutely outstanding, though. And as somebody who does a lot of editing, I go, wow, how do you do that? How'd they do that? Yeah, wow, that's really good. I wish I could try that sometimes. So, but I thought it was very well communicated, very well shot, and I thought the commission. And you know what? And it wasn't too long.
Oh, thank you.
So, what are your? Go. I was going to first say.
I just want to say, I've covered that for years and years, and besides Rubber Chicken, it was a pretty boring event to go to. But everybody, the last 2 years,
I think I ate the Rubber Chicken.
Jamie kind of hit it out of the park the last 2 years, and she really, her team at the chamber, and you got to say, our city PIO, Jonathan and Mary and the crew are so talented, and you can tell by, he was walking like he was walking on eggshells that day.
Every year he's very nervous, and you're right. Jamie does a tremendous. Ever since she's taken over the chamber, it's become a lot more vibrant. So,
and you look at the people that were there. It wasn't just your big studios people; it was small Magnolia Park businesses and downtown businesses owners. In fact, I just saw something today that quite a few people. It was their first time ever to a State of the City. You did a great job. You
so give us your reflections on the day and what you thought about it.
Well, thank you guys for all the kind words, and all the credit goes to Jamie and to our PIO team. I mean, the Chamber does an amazing event every year. I mean, shout out to the Marriott for being a wonderful venue that we go to.
How far in advance did you start working on that?
Oh gosh, we probably talked in the spring, like February or March, maybe April. And Jonathan and Mary sat down and said, "What do you want the theme to be?" And that's where we picked Back to the Future. And from there, we were off to the races. And to your point, Craig, I mean, the production quality on that video, I mean, they did an amazing job of taking a theme, an idea that I had, and really communicating it in a spectacular way.
Did you know about the Burger King in Burbank, about being part of that movie?
I actually did.
Okay, because that really tied it into Burbank.
It did. I actually live just a little up the street and around the corner from there. I mean, I love that movie, as you can tell. And it was really special to have a movie that had so much connection to Burbank really highlight the theme of the event. And then, of course, I thought, I mean, everyone did an amazing job. Jamie packed that room. PIO had a huge event. Shout out to them for preparing the speech. I don't envy my successor. It's, but I mean, there was such a great event put on this year. I don't know how Jamie and Jonathan top it.
How can you top it?
They'll find a way. They'll find a way.
Well, that's the thing. How do you top it? I remember last year, you did last year's stood in, and our PIO department, it's changed. Craig and I have witnessed how it's changed over the years. And with Jonathan at the helm and his whole department, we've lost Walter, who did a lot of video.
Walter.
Just retired.
Yeah, just retired. And everybody says, he does not look old enough to retire, but most people don't realize that and the drone footage that they do and the participation. I heard people walking away from the event. Wow, I didn't fall asleep, during the whole thing. It really.
That is
because it moved along, and that's the whole thing of those. It's kind of okay. Here we go, but if it's informative and it moves along, then it's something that, I think people are going to pay attention to.
And the best part was I'm sorry to say.
No, I'm fine with that. What was the best part?
Those bundt cakes.
The bundt cakes. The bundt cakes.
They were so good.
What was your favorite one, though?
I love the lemon or the carrot cake.
Yeah.
I've had them before. And nothing bundt cakes. They don't pay for an advertisement, but I will tell you, they are doing a great job. We were at their ribbon cutting.
Up at the Empire Center.
And at the Empire Center. We were there the other day for the unveiling
of the statue, and they donated him for that.
Donated. I know he's going to be at Holiday in the Park coming up, and he has said whatever your crew needs, and they're going to have a booth there. I mean, that's one of those companies that have come in here, and they are dedicated. They are dedicated to, and those bundt cakes are.
The product sells itself. It's that good.
Yeah,
they are.
I love that red velvet. Damn good.
Yep. So. But no, it was nice how you thank all the department heads and all the employees. I shot every table.
Oh, that's good.
I shot a lot of pictures that day, and there's a lot of people that make this city function.
Well, and I appreciate that, Ross, because I mean, you both have covered this a long time, and my understanding is that it hasn't always been the case that the mayor calls out every department head, but I always wanted to do that starting last year and continuing this year. Because it's not the mayor that runs the city. It's not even Justin, although he does deserve a lot of credit. To your point, there are so many people that make this city move, and it's a day as much to celebrate the work they've done as it is for anyone else up there.
Craig says it quite a bit. He says to me, turn on that light switch, and we're guaranteed to have lights.
Yep.
On Christmas Day, you put your trash cans out.
That you'll show up.
Our guys pick up our trash cans on Christmas Day. They don't do that in Beverly Hills.
No, they don't.
They do that here in Burbank, So you think of, all the city services, that.
And like Ross pointed out, a lot of people were there for the first time. So it was nice to acknowledge those people. They stand up and people would say, oh, okay, that's who, bring a name or face to the name. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it was that. So that's another, and like 650 some odd people in that room.
Attendance.
Where do we go next year? I mean, they've grown to that room.
Jonathan will find a way.
Nikki will have her work cut for her. Let me tell you what.
But that again, applauds to you and to our PIO department, and again, like you said, our city is run by Justin Tess and Courtney Paget. They oversee anything, and they
what a great team. What a great team!
Yeah,
too.
they really do.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody says, "How's the sausage made?" You know what? They're doing a pretty good job making that sausage.
Yes, they are.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's move on to some of the stuff going on this month.
Sure.
And some things you can get your take on before you leave office here in December. Let's talk about the library civic center project.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
It's funny you say that, Craig. I drove by last night, and today the library was closed, I guess, for some electrical work.
Yeah.
Talk about pitch black. I went down Glen Oaks last week. All the lights are off at the library. Not even the lights out in the courtyard. Nothing. I couldn't. It was a pitch black hole. We need a new library soon.
Yeah, we do.
well, my point is what do you envision?
Mm-hmm.
What's your dream scenario? But even though you probably won't be around to be able to vote on the final thing on it. But I've heard a lot of things proposed. I've heard a possible amphitheater inside it, a community center inside, like they have at Buena Vista Library, but on a much larger basis.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people float around housing possibly, and
Mm-hmm.
would the city want to run housing, or the Burbank Housing Authority go through them or something,
Mm-hmm.
for low-income housing. There's a lot of ideas going on with this thing.
Yeah.
So I know you're just getting a report on it, during November,
Mm-hmm.
but where do you see that thing going? I think it's going to be a beast.
It definitely is. So just to set the table, depending on when this airs, tomorrow, Tuesday, November 19th, actually, I think it's at 4:30 p.m. So it's before the start of the
I think
regular.
we're going to try and get the show on tomorrow before the meeting.
That's perfect. Okay. So tomorrow, 4:30 p.m., council's having a study session. So we're going to get an update on it. The more important question is, what do all of your listeners want to see? Because that's who you should be showing up, writing the council. Doesn't have to be tomorrow. But my thought on it is, I think this is a real opportunity project. It's an opportunity for a major facelift for the downtown Burbank area. The library itself, I see a new high-tech, cutting-edge library with the best of equipment, that addresses some of the access issues that we see with the current library, that mitigates some of the other deficiencies and hazards that might exist on that property. But as a broader civic center project, I would love to see housing included as part of it. We own all of the land through there. So if we can find the right partner, look, primarily,
and not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you, of course. I guess I haven't interrupted you. Let's tell people where exactly we're talking the old community services building, right? That's
oh yeah, so
Glen Oaks and Olive,
right.
Where right now the electric car parking lot is. It involves that,
and where the farmers market's held.
Farmers market, the Wells Fargo Bank, all that whole square,
right?
But not the CSB building.
Not the CSB building. So I've heard before they were going to replace that also.
No.
Yeah, but to your point, Ross, it's all of that land in that little block radius, if you will. So we own all the land. So look, it's a library project first and foremost, but I would love to see if we could take one of those open air lots, for example, keep a lot, maybe have it subterranean, but add some housing on that site, especially for our workforce. We don't have nearly enough workforce housing for our police officers, firefighters, teachers, and BHC would be a wonderful.
Can we designate housing for those occupations? Let's say for teachers, and then, which is great. They come in, but then all of a sudden they don't teach anymore, and they come in just to get the low income housing, and then they stop teaching.
Well, can you
earmark housing for jobs like that is that illegal?
So the short answer is, and then I know you want to jump in, Ross, is can you do it? Yes. The question though you're hitting on is, how do you regulate it? At what point? So, and those are fair questions that the next council will have to address. But I definitely think with all that land and with Burbank's need for housing and all the communities, all the neighborhoods that are already seeing densification and negative impacts, it just seems like a prime site to add housing in a way that doesn't compromise the character of our existing neighborhoods. So I'd love to see housing be some component of the project, but Ross.
Well, I know many police officers don't like to live in the city that they work in.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go shopping and in the grocery store and you're checking out with the guy that you just arrested
Sure.
a day before. I understand.
Yeah, but people we arrest don't live in Burbank.
Well, this is true. But, fire department, school teachers. But, we're looking at, and I want to step back here.
Mm-hmm.
Craig and I have been around for a long time. I will say that gray hair, and I don't have hair. But we've been around this town for a long time. We've seen the airport for years and years. People talk about a new terminal. It's being built.
Mm-hmm.
And the input on what people wanted.
Absolutely.
People have gone to meetings. I just last week watched the Parks and Rec meeting where they showed their general plan.
Uh-huh.
A vision for many years. It's going to take a long time before that library's built.
That's right.
But input from everybody in the city. And I'm finding, no offense, the people that in the city are changing. It's no more that sleepy.
No, it's
community.
The downtown area is definitely changed. And with that change, the one thing I don't like about this entire thing is we keep calling it the new library.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to, the media capital of the world, called the new media center, multimedia center.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not thinking rid of books. Books are good, but I mean, all those, I'm not.
But you're saying more than.
Yeah, because it is going to be more than books. You hear library, you think books. But in our city, there's so much going on here. Books should be part of it, but the name of the center should be something else besides the library, I think.
And I see your point, because what we envision is not just a place for folks to access books, but to practice creative arts, digital media, career advancement, a lot of the things that we are doing at the current library, but in a more updated space with technology.
And that's where I think we're going. When you look at the airport, what they're changing for handicap accessible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from parking lots to getting on airplanes to charging your cell phone in the terminal,
Mm-hmm.
The library has to look not today, 10 years in the future and build it to that. And I agree with Craig. I remember when you used to go up to the library, the second floor of that library,
Mm-hmm.
in the auditorium, and they put on many events. Our new library, there's so much it has changed, media-wise has changed. People are producing movies at our library.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to keep up with that trend. We are the media capital of the world, and our library has to really.
And so what I would say to round out your question, Craig, I agree. I think the three components I'm looking for is a new space with that's modular, that can be reconfigured, that's high tech to meet our needs. And the other key piece is housing. But the third thing I would say is public space. I mean, we have a decent number. We can always use more, but we have a decent number of community rooms. But I love the idea of an outdoor amphitheater, something that could really be.
I heard that. Yeah, that sounds very good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And maybe there are other thoughts that we haven't even thought of. And to your point, Ross, this is definitely the time to come and make your vision seen and heard by the council.
Okay.
Well, we have a new librarian.
We do coming on.
Who I was told.
Ross, you're looking up right now, aren't you?
I am trying to look it up on my phone. You're right.
And I know that I'm sure when Justin hired this person, that it was somebody who was
that was one of his
developing a new center.
Where he came from, I forget, Colorado. One of the cities he was in, he developed a state of the art, and I know that weighed in quite heavily.
He was very happy about the hire.
Yeah. So we're not getting somebody that is green.
Yeah.
But,
experienced veteran here.
Exactly. So librarians last 8 to 10 years. It's probably going to take this project at least 10 years for us to be able to walk in the door. But hopefully, he'll stick around long enough to.
I agree.
Get us a fantastic.
Well, let's move on a little bit here.
Okay.
Another issue you're dealing with this month, and not really dealing with this month, but it's a future thing for a lot. I think it's the changing face of Burbank.
Yeah.
Our parking meters.
Yeah.
And
are there parking meters? Where?
They're talking about putting.
Tune in tomorrow night, Ross.
Yes, they're talking about putting parking meters. In fact, if you, we have a My Burbank video of one of the meetings that we recorded.
The three people that were there?
And the three people, there's four with me.
Oh, do you remember?
Seven with staff.
Here, now I'm going back.
Okay.
When we had parking meters along the mall.
Ended in the 1970s, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was. People were going out there with pipe cutters and cutting the meters off to get $40 out of a meter. And then they found you put PVC around them, they couldn't cut it. But you remember every day there would be parking meters missing.
Wow.
That's because people were ripping off. Now with smart meters, you
a little different.
So people are hesitant about meters, but I think you have to look at the fact that these parking structures we built 30 years ago are starting to fall apart, and they need a lot of work. And you look at areas like, let's say, Magnolia Park, where if you put parking meters down Magnolia Park, that money could go toward Magnolia Park. But that's the thing: is this going to get earmarked for the whatever money it brings in for the money for the area that it represents? So, or will it go into the general budget? And what are your thoughts on the entire parking meter thing?
Yeah, so let me just set the table with what folks are going to hear tomorrow night. Tomorrow being Tuesday the 19th, because folks will be listening to this in time. So for tomorrow, we are only talking about the downtown Burbank area. So we're talking about San Fernando and all the little side streets in that area. In total, there's about, I'm just ballparking it here, about 150 parking spaces, give or take, that they're looking to have paid parking on. Keep in mind that we have 6,000 parking spaces in the downtown.
I wonder why they're not doing the structures also, though.
Well, because I think this is just a pilot. It's a first of its kind.
I think they want to figure out they have not been into the parking business.
Yep.
For
about 50 years.
Yeah. So they want to start off. I remember listening to Karen Pan at that meeting and say, we're starting off small,
very small,
and let's get it under control.
Yep.
And then we can expand.
I guess the goal is to get 20% occupancy all the time, and the rates change as the spots fill up. So
that's right. And that's the one thing I would say is that unlike other cities which are using paid parking to maximize their revenue, that's not our goal. Our goal is to have those spaces turn over so that you can jump into Starbucks for 20 minutes and then you get out and the spot's freed up. So will we generate a revenue off of it? I'm sure we will, but we're not necessarily concerned about maximizing it.
Right. As I recall listening to our good friend David, our transportation guru, it's not to, fund the general fund. It's to pay for, let's test it out. Let's pay for it. You got a lot of infrastructure.
Lots.
You're going to have to pay for that.
So does that money go to the general budget then? General fund?
Yeah.
So great question. It does not go into the general fund. It goes into the parking authority fund. So it is earmarked in that you can only use it for these sort of infrastructure upgrades. We couldn't take that money and then use it to buy out a gun store or some other purpose. Now, to your question, it's not so narrowly earmarked where it's condensed to like a specific area. At least not as of right now. Right now, the concept is let's use that revenue wherever the need might exist in the city to maintain these lots. Down the road, though, I suppose there could be a mechanism, especially if we were partnering with a local PBID, to try to designate some of that revenue just for the area. But it's a pilot, first of its kind, and so we're just keeping it very simple and straightforward right now.
I know sitting on the Magnolia Park Merchants Board, city manager many years ago, Mark Scott, met with us, and he said that's a good way to fund things in Magnolia Park. And we have, they've talked about doing a parking study in Magnolia Park for years. I was just last Thursday sitting, doing a ribbon cutting at one of the businesses with our vice mayor. And we were sitting there talking and looking at the cars, and we said, here's a perfect example where parking meters would pay off so well along Magnolia Park. People don't realize you turn over business. That's good for business. That's good for the city. People tend to want to park, go to work because they know Burbank doesn't charge and you get away with it.
The employees do all the parking in good spots too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, a lot of good things about it.
So I would just say, in short, however you feel about paid parking, it's coming up for discussion tomorrow night. Definitely make your voice heard. But what we will say is, even if it happens, we'll have paid parking on 150 spaces, but there will still be 6,000 total spaces in the downtown area, because we are cognizant that cost is prohibitive for some folks. So there will still be free parking options. You can still go to the parking lot behind City Hall. You can park at our police and fire headquarters. That'll still be free. For up to 2 hours, I think, and then you got to move it. But those spots are not being touched by this paid parking program and others. The city
courthouse, there's a ton. If you drive around,
there is tons.
Yeah, if you go on, there's a map on the city I've seen. We have structures
right
all over downtown. You'd be amazed.
All over 5,800 spots, in fact. But we're looking at those premium, high contact point, like the most convenient of the most convenient spots, and saying those we need to turn over, and yes, we'll generate a little revenue in the process.
I think the entire failure of the Golden Mall was due to the lack of parking. There were no parking structures at the time, so they closed down San Fernando, and where would people park now? There was only just street parking on the side streets, and there were no parking structures. And I think that's why people stopped going down there, and that was probably what the failure was.
Yeah.
So let me touch along in that general category.
Sure.
The one-way San Fernando Boulevard experiment, which you're not going to be around to see the finality of it.
I might have comments on it, but yes.
Right. So, that's what I want. How do you feel it's going? What do you think?
Didn't I read that it's coming back?
January, I think.
January, that's what I thought.
So, our new council with Chris Rosati, congratulations, Chris. They'll have a chance to talk about it. Look, from what I've seen, I think it's been a success in terms of it's reduced negative interactions, if you will, between pedestrians and bicyclists and motorists. It is proving to be safer. I don't think we've seen the negative impacts to businesses that we were concerned about. What's your thought?
You're just the first thing out of your mouth there. It has eliminated a lot of accidents.
Yeah, it's safer.
And that is the primary reason people don't understand. Why did you take Olive and do what you did? Why did you do this on San Fernando? Folks, get prepared, because you're going to see that be done in Magnolia Park. You're going to be seeing it done on Riverside Drive. People are getting killed in this city because of the speed people are going.
Yeah.
We got to tame it. We got to control it. And this is one way they have found. The numbers show. I mean, if you want to look at stats, they look at the stats of every accident, that occurs, and we're eliminating. I have been to so many accidents on San Fernando Road, over the years. Yeah. Very few anymore.
Yeah, it's safer, and I think that there haven't been the negative impacts to businesses. And we think that when we couple in this paid parking pilot program, we're actually going to see a positive impact for businesses, because now that car that's been parked in front of the Starbucks all day has to move unless they want to pay. They will move. And so that means more turnover. That means more folks coming in to grab their sandwich at Ike's, or, I think there are positive impacts.
Well, when you used to have to, in cars where you kept your change, because you had to feed the meters.
Yeah.
We're dealing with smart meters. We're talking smart meters. Everybody, as I break my phone, everybody has a smartphone. Almost everybody.
That's right.
Not even a flip phone, but a flip.
Well, you heard what happened now at Redondo Beach or somewhere where somebody went and changed the QR codes, right, and people were paying some outside.
Well, I would think Burbank would catch on.
I'm just saying. So you never know what's going to happen. You got to be careful on everything you do,
And for that reason, we're not going to use the QR codes. You'll be able to access it online, and we would recommend that people use the app, because then one time you put in your license plate information, your card information, and it's stored, and you don't have to re-enter.
Will that be part of the 311 app?
It's going to be separate because there's a separate vendor, but I think there will be a linkage between our app and that parking app. But it'll be convenient. There's minimal risk of any sort of fraud, because we are watching what's happening with those QR codes. But hey, at the end of the day, if you don't have a smartphone, you can call and place your payment too. So as long as you have a mobile device of any kind, there's a way to pay.
Well, so use your smartphone, or you're a dumb person. Either way.
But you had brought up, when we were talking the other day, Craig, about smartphones, and some people can't figure out smartphones.
Well, that's in fact,
wasn't it the parking permit?
Let's bring that up. Since we're in parking, all those things.
Sure.
We're going to a new parking system now. And there's no longer
residential.
Mm-hmm. There's no longer the little things you hang in your windows anymore.
Yeah.
You do it all online, which is great. But we've always been able to buy a pass, and somebody comes over, for a worker, or Aunt Gertrude or somebody comes over and She hangs it in her window and that's it.
Yeah.
The way they're setting this up now is that you cannot do that anymore. You must now, if somebody comes over, you must now go on a computer, get them a parking pass that day. And not only does, poor grandma maybe not have a computer access to do that, and now she's got to worry about all that stuff. But there's also, I think, a privacy concern. What if people don't want to know who's coming to their house to visit them? And now you're giving their license number and everything else, and they're saying, wait a second, I don't want people to know that person came to my house. So to me, I think there's a real slippery slope here, and why I understand why it's streamlined. Yeah. I think having that one pass you can still buy and be able to give to somebody is still a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, when you said privacy, and I had written that down, I understand people don't. I think people understand. License plate readers are on all police cars now, all parking controlled cars. The new flock system is all over Burbank.
Empire Center's full of them.
The Empire Center, the airport. Your license is going to get read if you come into this city.
It will.
Bad guys, did you hear what I just said? You might steal a car and have bad plates, but they're going to know what color car. They can see inside, the person driving. But now that's the standard thing, I think, in cities.
I just think it's a privacy about the individual person and who's visiting their house.
And I will say that we're just rolling this out, as you know, Craig, and I think that there are definitely there's room for improvement. And so I would just encourage you, as you are, to just continue to let the council know that, you're not the first person to come to me and say, hey, I'd really like the option to have a hang tag. So it's that classic tension point of trying to embrace new technology and streamline things, but it is change, and it's not always as convenient as we design it.
I stay on top of things. You know what? let's take a quick break real fast.
Sure.
And we'll be back in a couple of seconds here because the people want to hear our commercial. They love our commercial.
Oh, let's not stand in the way.
We'll be right back with Ask the Mayor.
Enjoying the show right now? Thinking you may want to do your own podcast? Vibrate Talks is renting out our podcast studio on an hourly rate. You can do audio podcasts or both audio and video, and even bring in guests to talk with. We will help you get set up on podcast platforms and start a YouTube channel, and we can edit your productions to make you look and sound your very best. If you're interested, please drop us an email at studiorentals@myburbank.com. That's studiorentals@myburbank.com, and we will get back to you. Now, back to our show.
And we're back. It's November's Ask the Mayor show with Mayor Nick Schultz. And we're going to move on a little bit here. We're talking about what the council is still working on here in November.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that is coming up on the agenda on Tuesday, tomorrow, I guess everybody knows now how the sausage is made, and we're a day when we shoot this. But one of the things that is being brought up is outdoor dining. And it's something that I think the city of Burbank has really done a good job on. Very slow behind all the other cities getting into it. And thank goodness we do have it now. So that's coming up tomorrow night. So give us your thoughts on the outdoor dining.
So I think this is one of the most impactful things that we've done all year to help small business. And it's unusually quiet. A lot of folks aren't paying attention to it. But what we're going to do is we're going to vote to authorize our staff to look the other way, to not enforce Burbank Municipal Code, which does not allow for outdoor dining, the next 2 years. And then in the spring, when we go through our budget process, staff is going to come back with a budget request at first for a feasibility study. But basically where this is going is to have a permanent program to allow for outdoor dining, but to give them the time to get that fully done. We're going to tell them for the next 2 years not to enforce any sort of ban or prohibition on outdoor dining. Now, if an establishment becomes a public nuisance and is having a keg party every other night, that's a different story. But for example, Lincoln Beer Company, using their parking lot, they're going to continue to be able to do that for the next 2 years while we design the framework for a more permanent exception.
Yeah, and Lincoln Beer Company is a good example. They're one of the that have made address the council, written letters. If you've ever been to Lincoln Beer Company, that parking lot for in the evening is empty. You're in an industrial area.
Yeah.
And so why can you not, have people, and I think people are still getting food off of food trucks. They don't cook it there, but to be able to dine. And like you said, I'm very involved in Magnolia Park. A couple of our merchants along there, this has been their lifeline. I mean, after COVID, after the plastic ban, after this, after that, after the Dodgers winning, I had to throw that in.
I like how you threw that one in there.
But I've been to many of these restaurants, and we're here in California, folks. It's 80 degrees 90% of the year.
Amen.
Eat out on the patio. I'm a frequent at tequilas and that outdoor patio. I just love sitting outside. Along Magnolia, there's a couple of places.
New Deal's another one.
New Deal is one that I've been on their back patio.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I think what we need to do is look at the overall picture, and a lot of our laws and rules were written a long time ago.
Yep.
And things have changed. Frisco dining is here.
It is.
And we need to update our laws.
I agree.
And no offense, I think it's going to continue to help a lot of businesses. Yes, it does take away some of the handicap parking, I will say. But I'm finding if they let one spot, you don't have to change the whole code.
Yeah.
But I think, and moving the trash cans maybe to a decorative thing on some of these streets. So where trash can is, you can extend your patio. Those are little tiny minor things that I really, I hope, is that a, what do they call that when the council?
A consent calendar?
Yeah, consent.
No, a report, I think, tomorrow.
It's actually a report, so there'll be an opportunity for public comment. But if you're a small business owner that is impacted by this, or if you just care what's happening to our small businesses, I hope and I expect, just based on prior votes taken, that the council will give the green light for this to continue for at least the next 2 years while we work on a way to really make it permanent. So at least through the end of 26, there shouldn't be any question that New Deal, tequilas, all of your favorites are going to continue to be able to operate that.
And I will say, I know the owners of all these businesses, and they are worried. They've been worried. If this goes back, we might be out of business.
Like I said, I can't guarantee anything, but just based on prior discussions and the way we've voted before, I'm optimistic that'll be a 5-0 tomorrow night.
And the nice thing is, dining outside, you can have your dog with you.
Yes, you can.
Where's Dodger? He's asleep over here.
Oh, well,
he's asleep.
But no, that's the other nice thing. And people here in California, doesn't everybody take their dog wherever they go?
I know I do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, we got one more thing for tonight. And that's our big upcoming event.
Yeah.
Which is the mayor's Christmas tree lighting, which is coming up on December 7th. So, probably your last official act.
Yeah, it's gonna be the last big event of the year before the reorg. Let me just mention. So that's gonna be 6:00 right on the steps of Burbank City Hall. Santa's going to be making an appearance. I know he's got so much to do these days, but
you get him on your schedule every year.
I don't know how we do it.
He must have it inside.
Yeah, we got him on speed dial. We encourage people to start lining up out there about 5:30, 5:45. We do begin right at 6. Rain or shine, we'll be out there. And I also want to give just one other plug. So, that's really our hallmark seminal holiday event. Although there's always a menorah lighting at AMC Walkway. So we'll have that later in December.
Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, that's the one I'm usually down in Palm Springs visiting my relatives, celebrating Hanukkah. But do you want to clue off? I hear the MC for the mayor's tree lighting is probably last year. They rocked it. They did such a great job. Our own Mr. Jones and Mary.
They do a heck of a job.
They really did. And if you don't know Jonathan Jones personally, see that event, it just makes it great. Stop out and I know you can probably write a note to it. A serviceman, our veterans are out there.
Yeah.
You get candy canes. You can talk to Santa Claus. You can
take a picture with Santa if you have your kids, and you can see all the cute kids with their dance troupe and local choirs. It's a real nice showcase of our local talent. So 6:00 on the 7th, but I also, if it's all right, I'll go.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Going into our last little bit, I know you normally ask me what's on my mind.
Instead, let me do this.
Okay.
So what's on the mayor's mind?
Greg, thank you. I also want to highlight two other events that are happening both this weekend, actually. If you're wanting to get into the holiday mood, you want to support some local businesses, there's two other really great things happening. So starting on Friday, Ross, I know you know all about this. We have Holiday in the Park. It's going to be from 5 to 9. I'm actually going to hand it over to Ross in a minute because that's the big one I want to steer you to. But also, and then it's yours in a second, Ross, after you've had fun at Holiday in the Park, on Saturday, if you like wine, you can come downtown and we have the Burbank Winter Wine Walk, which is really a great opportunity to enjoy some wine and shop and frequent some of our downtown businesses. But Ross, tell us about Holiday in the Park.
I don't know a thing about it. I happen to be co-chair of Holiday in the Park this year. We are rocking it. We've doubled the exhibitors. I mean, the vendors. We have more food trucks. We got 3 stages for performances. We got, I think, 40 cars.
Wow.
I mean, some real classic cars. It's going to be a great event. Got a Ferris wheel. Going to be at UME. One of our hosts, Brad Korb, is sponsoring the Ferris wheel, which everybody comes out to see. But it's a great way to get into the holidays. The nice thing is, support your local businesses. They're staying open. You know, if you haven't shopped in some of the little stores, stop in. It's a good time. Plus, you know, you might be able to say hi to Craig doing the podcast for myburbank.com.
Oh, really? Okay.
We will be out there. In fact, we have some nice shirts to sell and hats. And if you come by, let me hold this up to the camera here. We actually have a nice My Burbank pen, which we're going to give away to anybody who wants to stop by and get one. One side's pen, one side stylus. So,
I didn't even realize that. Oh, yeah, it is. Wow. Well, and you know what? I'll clue you off only because I know the maps real well. Craig will be kind of near Pizza Hut, and that's where the My Burbank booth will be.
I'll be up there.
Over there by there's
California Magnolia, yeah.
California and Magnolia. The street, let me just throw this in there. We take over the street at 11 a.m. Parking enforcement goes into effect at 8 a.m. It is just one day. We are trying to help eliminate a ton of cars. If you want to take rideshare, we highly recommend it. And you can come in, tell your driver to 3221 is the do-it-yourself center. We will have their parking lot after 5 o'clock, so they can come in off of Chandler, drop people off. You're right in the middle of Holiday in the Park. And then they can go out and you can be picked up there and bring your appetite. I mean, there will be every choice of food, and those bundt cakes will be out there too.
Oh, I love it. And
Portos. And
the other thing I would just mention is there are so many holiday freebies and events that we could talk about. We don't have time, but if you go to burbankca.gov /holiday events 2024, or if you just Google it, we have a whole web page devoted to all the great things. I wanted to close on one more thing because we don't always, in my opinion, we haven't always done a great job of celebrating all of the holidays that fall into December. We actually have a menorah lighting at City Hall this year from December 25th to January 2nd. And look, we're still a work in progress, but I think every year we're trying to add more and be more inclusive of everybody of all faiths that call Burbank home. So in addition to, I think it's going to be in addition to the AMC walkway downtown.
AMC walkway, Rabbi, it's the Chabad House of Burbank, and they bring out potato latkes. If you don't know what that is, it's potato pancakes, applesauce. You got to have potato pancake with donuts. They serve a ton out there, and it's really a nice way to support that holiday. And there are others.
Yeah. So if you want to come celebrate that, if you want to see a free screening of Gremlins, like all of that is on our website, and there are like 20 events. So it's going to be a really fun season in Burbank.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I know you're moving on here soon, but I gotta ask.
Sure.
Doesn't Burbank, it just has a fantastic feel. I mean, these community events, a lot of cities stop doing them. We expect to see 25 or 30,000 people over at Holiday in the Park this week.
I love it.
I mean, people come out of everywhere. But that's the thing about Burbank. We are different. What is it? It's just to get together, if it's the menorah lighting, if it's holiday in the park, if it's supporting, a local club or organization, we just do it cool.
We do. It's that small town feel that you just don't see a lot of anymore. And I agree with you. It's whether it's the 4th of July, whether it's Halloween, whether it's the holiday season, we do it better than everyone. And I'll have my family out there holiday in the park, so we'll be rocking it with y'all.
Cool. All
right. Well, I think that's another wrap for another month here. And we thank the mayor for coming on the show as always, because, he is not only a busy guy being the mayor, but now being our assembly member also. So we appreciate him stopping by and expressing, his views and what's going on in Burbank. We hope you guys learned something from this. So for Mayor Nick Schultz and Ross Benson, this is Craig Sherwood saying thank you very much for listening or watching on YouTube, and we will see you next month.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you for watching the latest My Burbank video. If you have it in your heart, please consider helping us by clicking on the super thanks down below. Or even better, go to our channel and consider a membership. Your support is what keeps My Burbank going strong.